Hi everyone, this is Dom with True Blue Canine out of Kentucky. You can reach us at www.tbcanine.com or www.realprotectiondog.com. I'm taping this today to kind of cover equipment requirements for a protection dog, starting from a puppy all the way up through adulthood. And I'm not going to be able to cover all the equipment recommendations on this particular video. There's actually going to be 2 videos, so this is one of 2. So now keep in mind, this equipment recommendation is for protection dogs, not sport dogs, not like Schutzhund and stuff like that. This is for the real life family protection dog and executive protection dogs. So I get asked all the time. People are telling me, they're like, hey Dom, or they email me saying, hey, give me some equipment that I really need to start my puppy off. Whether it be 8 weeks old, 10 weeks old, 12 weeks old, it doesn't really matter. I get these questions all the time, so I figure what I'll do is I'll put out a video about it. And usually my first response is, hey, what do I need to train my dog as far as equipment and how best to do it? And I think so many times people forget the most valuable tool that they have is their voice in themselves. So what do I mean by your voice? Sure, we always tell Fido, hey, come here Fido, good Fido, whatever. Okay, sure, that's using our voice. But I think that we can use it in a better way. For instance, Fido, and he comes to us, right? Then we use our girly voice. And us big guys, right? I'm 290 pounds. And so us big guys can even have the biggest girly voice that anybody's heard. So it'd be like, Fido. And he comes right into us. Oh, that's a good Fido. Good boy. We use that high-pitched voice. And we use a lot of excitement, right? Because it changes the tone. And then the dog gets excited by it. And it's important that we praise at the right time and we correct at the right time. So I guess to go along with this, the most crucial piece of equipment that you can have is education. Okay? Take some time. Go on YouTube. Go buy a book. Go take a class. It doesn't have to be from me. It could be from anybody. Every dog trainer has their ways at work. You might like them. You might not. Take some good. Get rid of the bad. But what I would recommend, and so many people do this all the time, they teach their dog to come, right? And they're saying, Fido, come. And Fido comes to him, good Fido, good come, whatever. Now here's the problem that I have with that, and I don't train my dogs the here or come command, by saying their name. So what I do is I just say their name. Fido. He comes to me, good Fido. I praise him up a lot. So what the dog's doing, he's learning that Fido is a command for come here. And when he comes here, he gets praise all the time. He just gets love. And that's something that's important for teaching a dog to come, is every time they come to you, they get a lot of praise. They get a reward for it. Some people use treats or whatever. I never use treats. I just use my girly voice. So what I would recommend is replace the come command with their name. But it's very important that when you replace that come command with their name, that you go ahead and whenever they're doing something bad, a lot of times people have the tendency of saying, Fido, no! Fido this, Fido, whatever it is. So they always say their name first and then they say no. Well, now the dog seems, or from my experience, they start associating their name with something bad. And we never want to do that. We always want their name to be a good thing. Hey, they hear it, they come running to you because they know that's the right thing to do. Whether you use a here command or a come command, same thing. Every time you say here and they come to you, lots of praise, lots of reward. If the dog runs away from you and then they end up coming back to you and you're ticked off and you're mad and angry because it took you 5 minutes before they came to you and you were chasing them around, well, when they come to you, you have to praise that. Because if you scold them for it then, they're not going to know why you're scolding them. They're going to assume that you're scolding them because they came to you. And that's going to make your job a a lot more difficult. So my recommendation, first and foremost, the most important piece of equipment that you can have is an education. Okay? Secondly, it would be your voice. Use inflections, use a tone in your voice. It will really help you out. Use that girly voice. Don't worry if everybody's watching you. I do group classes all the time. I'll be in Lowe's, I'll be in Walmart, or whatever. And then I tell my dogs, oh, there's a good puppies! Right? And I say it loud, and the dogs get excited, and that's their praise. That's their praise. And I consider their praise as a paycheck. So now that we're talking about paycheck, how much do we give them? For something simple like, hey, come here or sit, I just give a real simple, oh, good sit, good girl, good sit. That's it, a $20 paycheck. At the very end of the session, when they're finished, I give them the whole paycheck. We want to keep them looking for the next paycheck. If we give them the entire paycheck up front, well, why? What motivates them to work? So that's something to keep in mind, and I can do an additional video showing the dog and the emphasis that our voice and tone has on the dog and the appropriate amount of praise. Every dog varies, so not one dog's the same, just like not one trainer's the same, not everybody's alike. So, okay, so back on the topic of required equipment is, I would say, a good leash. Now, I don't like the nylon leashes. If the dog pulls away from you and it slides through your hand, it can burn. When it gets wet, it's just a mess. I like a good quality, high quality leather leash. Now, they do have from like EliteCanine.com, they have some synthetic leashes. It's called an AST material, so it's synthetic. It doesn't require the upkeep and maintenance like leather does. And they're pretty good too, but I like the leather, especially once they're broke in. They're nice and soft, and I just like them. They don't slip through my hands when it's wet. So I like a leather leash. This one's a 3/4 inch wide by 7 foot. This is actually considered a police lead or a traffic lead. And the reason why is it has a brass buckle up front, a brass snap on one side, and then it has a brass snap on the opposite side. So you have two brass snaps, and these are solid brass, really well made. I actually got this one, and I get all my leashes from ForDogTrainers.com. So on this leash, you got two brass snaps. Then you have a stationary O-ring, and then you have a floating O-ring that goes in the middle of the stationary, and then at the very end with the other brass clip, you have another stationary O-ring. Now this leash does several different things. You can take it and clip in the brass link to the O-ring, and you got a leash, your handle, and then this one goes onto the collar. That's 7 foot. The other thing that you could do is you could take this traffic lead or police lead, kind of wrap it around your body, attach it to the floating O-ring, and then the dog's hooked up down here, so that way it's kind of hands free. The other thing that you could do with it is you could take, instead of clipping it and making a small handle, you can clip it down here on the other stationary lead or O-ring, and now it's like a 53 inch leash. And then it changes. You can make a harness out of it. You can do all kinds of things. It's great for protection when they get older. They can pull on it, and you know they're going to be secure, and they're not going to break the lead. They're not going to do anything like that. It does require a little bit of maintenance. It's going to require you to clean it when it gets muddy, to give some conditioning, leather conditioner on it from time to time. I find that the oils on my hands, but I work dogs every day, so the oils from my hands kind of condition the leather as well. So moving on to another leash, I would recommend a short leash. This is again another leather leash. I got it from ForDogTrainers.com. It has a brass snap and an O-ring, and I could clip this onto that 7 foot line, and then when I start working off-lead obedience or agility or protection, I can always unhook it, and then this is still hanging from, stop it, I have a puppy running around in here. I can just unsnap it, and then it's hanging from the collar, so that way if I have to make a correction or grab the dog, I can still grab this, because I never want to correct the dog. Tango. We have a puppy Malawan in here, and he wants to bite on everything. So we have that short lead, and I use it because I don't want to correct the dog physically with my hand. I always want to use equipment. I don't want to have him look at me as the enemy, and I definitely don't want my dogs, for personal protection or police work or anything like that, to feel like they could be manhandled by a human. I want them to always think that they're in charge, they're the alpha, and they're going to control the situation. As soon as I put my hands on them, now they can be afraid. They'll start to fear my hands, and then they can fear somebody else's hands. So I would recommend that. The other thing, once the dog gets a little older and you have them on tie-outs, or you're doing agitation to get the dog barking and biting, and I would recommend a 2-inch agitation collar. Okay, this is a double ply leather agitation collar. It's 2-inch. It has this flap right here on the back. Don't know if you can see it that well. If it comes down, it has a buckle. What this leather flap does is it protects the dog from the buckle, so that way it doesn't irritate them. Now, why a 2-inch or an agitation collar at all? Because when the dog's pulling on the chain, pulling, we want that force to be distributed around his neck. We don't want it all on a thin collar where it can really hurt him and injure him. So a good agitation collar is a good one. Next thing, for puppies, to improve their prey drive, so that way they can drive in and go bite things, and then we can adjust it to a bite suit and things like that, is a flirt pole. Okay, it could be anything. This one happens to be a plastic with a nylon rope. And then you can have like a piece of leather on the end of it, and you can just kind of tease the dog with it. Just kind of run it around like this, and you go in circles, and the dog will chase it. And then once the dog sees it and he gets excited, he starts biting it, kind of like right now Tango's biting this one. Okay, if he lets go, you just kind of do it again, right? So you get them biting on it, and they really like it. Oh, Tango, good boy, right? It improves that prey drive in them, and they pull on it, right? You let them win a little bit, and then you make them work for it a little bit. If they let go of it, you make them come back up and get it again, okay? And then they get it, and you pull on it. So this is what they call a flirt pole. It's really good for increasing the prey drive in a young pup. And in a protection dog, you want a lot of prey drive. So that way, eventually, you can go from prey drive to defense or fight drive. But what it does, really, is it teaches the dog it's okay to bite. And it teaches them to bite hard and fight for what they want. And then once they learn that, then you can go into, sorry, he's bumping the computer around. And then once he learns that, then it'll be a lot better for him to bite a man. Because a man fighter, a dog that fights a man and doesn't back down to him, they need to know that it's okay to bite. So many times, dog owners will get their dog and they want a protection dog, and then every time the dog bites, it's a puppy, right? He's going to chew and bite on things. They correct the dog. Well, after a while of correcting the dog doesn't want to bite anymore, and you can't blame them. And then later on, they wonder why not. Well, if you got corrected every day for doing something, you probably stop doing it. So same thing with the dog. So that's all the time I have for this video 1 of 2. So there's a 2 of 2, which will go into the other equipment. But again, if you have any questions, you can reach us at www.tbk9.com or www.realprotectiondog.com. Thanks. Have a great one.